Welcome to the East Bank Sports Show, proudly brought to you by the Fanatical Elves, a member of the Fans First Sports Network. Broadcasting live from the vibrant East Bank of the Flats in Cleveland, Ohio. Join us as we delve into the heart of Cleveland sports. It's your hosts, Noah and Matt.
Welcome into yet another edition of the East Bank Sports Show. Noah, Matt, how we doing, man?
Not bad. Just got done celebrating my birthday weekend.
I know. Happy birthday to you. We got a fun little episode to talk about today. There's some news going around. It's NBA, I almost said trade deadline. It is NBA free agency. We are in the middle of the MLB season still. Make sure you go vote for Steven Kwan and Jose Ramirez to be starters for the All-Star game. And, we can't not talk about the Browns every week. There was an interesting article that came out that one of the cohorts here over at the Fanatical Elves Network, Lou, sent in our group chat that we wanted to break down and give some of our takes as well. I believe his episode yesterday, or it might be the one he scheduled today, covered this situation as well. So you make sure you go check out Lou's content. Before we go into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button for us. Really helps us out a ton, grow the channel. Hit the download button, helps us grow the podcast and the network is the Fanatical Elves. Of course, want to shout out Fans First Sports Network for letting us do our thing, letting me write my articles for that website. I always appreciate everything that they have done for us in our short time with them. Well, it's really not been short, Matt. We've been on Fans First Sports and the Fanatical Elves since February now. So really exciting stuff going on over here at the East Bank Sports Show. But enough's enough. Let's get into it, man. NBA free agency started. What move stood out to you the most? We'll start with that. So give me what move in free agency stood out to you the most.
I took this more to like a personal level, and I think the one that kind of, shocked me a little bit, which it makes sense and all, but it's Clay and the Warriors splitting up. Just something about that, Cavs-Warriors rivalry and growing up with that core of Curry, Clay, Draymond. Like, I don't know. Part of me is like weirdly attached to it as a rival fan.
Yeah, I agree with you. That one was a weird one to see him going to Dallas, especially with LeBron talking about taking a pay cut for him to go to LA. Yes, Cleveland, LeBron to Cleveland rumors should be dead on arrival at this point. They drafted Bronny, shocker. Two things that I wanted to point out, Chris Paul going to the Spurs, Chris Paul and Wemby next year, I think could be really interesting in the twilight of Chris Paul's career. I'm excited to watch them play a little bit. I don't think that's going to make them title contenders by any means, just that one move, but I am excited to see it. But the one that scares me the most is Paul George to the 76ers. The East just keeps getting better, man. And I know we're about to get into it and talk about some of the names out there still. But, man, the Sixers look dangerous. The Knicks look dangerous after the Bridges trade. Obviously, Boston looks dangerous. They won the finals. But, Matt, I want to hear what you have to say about, potential players that are still out there that could be good fits for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I do want to preface this real quick with the fact that I know right now we have like $5 million in cap, but that can always change and be manipulated and that kind of thing. I didn't really look at it as what fits our salary cap, but like players that are out there that we should move around money and try to go for. Go ahead, Matt.
So I was looking into it a little bit, and this free agent class really is not that deep. There's not a lot of good players in it, in my opinion. One name I've seen thrown around Cleveland rumors a lot is Jalen Smith. He's a big out of Indiana. He'd be a good depth piece. We've had, injury concerns with our bigs before, so he could come in when that happens. I would really like to see that move. I mean, it would shore up one of the spots at least if our bigs go through another injury run, Mobley and Allen. But like I was saying, there's really not a lot out there. And I kind of wanted to throw down another slight cop-out answer on this one. It's not a player to go get per se, but as we've said multiple times on this show, and I know it's a softball answer, the biggest move we got to make is extend Donovan Mitchell.
Oh, 100%. That should have, I mean, so first of all, I do want to preface with, I love the Jalen Smith pick. He did, however, recently, as of today, get signed to the Chicago Bulls, which sucks because I thought he would be a good fit for me as well. One of the other things I want to touch on, though, is today we had our introductory press conference with Kenny Atkinson. He was very ecstatic about all four of the core four and keeping them together, which, for right or wrong, we'll kind of get into that in a little bit too, because, we're on the block for Brandon Ingram a little bit. But Atkinson, as well as Kobe Altman, both pretty much seemed perfectly fine with Donovan Mitchell and where he's at and him staying with this team and that kind of thing. So in my opinion, it's still just a matter of when, not if he will. But that being said, I'd really like it to just be over with if we're all over here like, yep, it's done, but it hasn't been announced yet. Because I know they can't announce it officially until Saturday, but, there's been contract extensions to be announced. I mean, Jason Tatum got extended today for way too much money, but we'll get past my hate for Jason Tatum and go on to a couple of my picks. And, Matt, feel free to jump in. My hot take pick, I call it, is DeMar DeRozan. He's still averaging 24 points a game. He is old. He does not fit the age of the core. But in terms of trying to fit someone in and that bigger forward-esque position, I know he plays shooting guard, small forward, but he could make a lot of sense there. Just pray he's not washed, but, he's going to command a lot of money, and I don't know where we're going to get it. Hence why I listed it as my hot take. My safe pick, Buddy Hield, didn't look fantastic with the 76ers. He was all right. He was a role player, don't get me wrong. 12 points per game. Still what we're looking for, a bigger forward with upside on the 3-point ball and defense. The scary pick here, because it makes sense in terms of our team, and he's been linked to us for 2 years now, is Miles Bridges from the Hornets, 21 points per game. However, we all know what's going on with him and, his background with his the mother of his children and all of that. I don't like having this many types of those, I don't want to get into it. I'm not going to get into it because we try to keep it straight and narrow on the show. But we have enough of this in Cleveland, even though I think he'd be a fantastic fit for the money that, he would command in free agency at the 3. However, Charlotte came out in the media and said that they are still sticking by wanting him, which is, crazy to me with all the stuff. Normally teams just rub the hands and let them go. Kareem Hunt's a perfect example of that, even though obviously most of them do get a second chance, for better or for worse. But those are 3 players I'm kind of looking at this point. And, with how the NBA free agency goes, those players could be gone by the time we're done talking on this live show. Matt, what are your reactions to some of those players?
I think my favorite out of your list would be Buddy. I think you kind of hit it head on there. He's, would be a solid role player for us who's shown flashes of, I don't want to say potential necessary, but he's solid, really solid. Could be a depth key piece that we absolutely love to have. And then I also definitely think you're spot on with Miles Bridges. As much as it makes sense from the team and the athletics and the basketball perspective, we're all good on that in Cleveland. We'll be all right.
Yeah, for sure. Especially considering some of the other pieces all around the greater, teams and such that we have. But let's go ahead. We're going to take a quick little commercial break. When we get back, we are going to talk about this fantastic article that was written up by NEOTransit.blog, big Cleveland-based, talking about development. We've referenced them on the show before. They're one of my favorite reads, especially when I'm trying to get into the move in the morning. People read the newspaper in the morning. I read NEOTransit.blog. We'll be right back with the East Bank Sports Show after this commercial. And we are back with the East Bank Sports Show. I want to talk about an interesting interesting proposal that was brought up. And, NEOTransit.blog has some ties to the city, has some ties to these sports teams where they know what's going on, right? Like they have an idea of what's going on. And I want to talk about this article that came out, and I will give you the date right now. This article came out on June 28th, 2024, and it talks about, an idea that I feel like most Cleveland fans, when they think about, where should we build the new stadium, is the first idea that comes to mind because it's such a waste of space. But there's always been hangups about it. Matt, you know what I'm talking about. Most of the viewers listening, tuning in live know what I'm talking about if they are Clevelanders. Burke Lakefront Airport, the stain of the skyline of Cleveland, because there's so much land there that we could be doing so much better things than having a private airport. Matt, I'm assuming you got a chance to read this article. Go ahead, give me some of your thoughts about what was being broken down in this article.
So the first biggest thing that I want to say is I completely agree with what you just said about Burke kind of being a stain, However, I think the thing that you might disagree with, and I kind of want to lead off with to see that reaction from you, I don't think the stadium should go there.
Okay, but why is that?
I think, and this is me being less of a sports fan and more of a, Clevelander, I think that could be such a cool area that to put a stadium there, and granted it'd be a dome stadium so you could do year-round events in it and whatever, would almost kind of waste the space a little bit. I think you could do so many different things with that area that, you could put a stadium anywhere, like they were talking about moving it out of downtown. As much as I don't want that to happen, why put the stadium right on the edge of the lake where you can do so many awesome things?
Okay, I'm gonna raise you this though, because we've seen some of the renderings and some of the ideas for the Burke Park project, right? The Haslams want to open what is called the Ballpark Village. It's the idea to have an entertainment district around your stadium. You have your hotels, your breweries, your bars, your water parks. Shout out the Hall of Fame Village if they ever finish that water park over there. You have everything and then some going around the stadium. And you see that more and more as teams start to develop, their 21st century or, 2020s esque stadiums. I think, you have enough land on that Burke Airfront area where you can connect what almost is an area that is useless to the normal Clevelander, aside from a presidential candidate or a business executive coming in. Flatten that all out, have all of those cool things, move people that way as well. It's the same idea. Like if people are longtime listeners of the show, we talked episodes and episodes back of the post office location, right? And flattening all that area north of Progressive Field to then put the stadium in. It's the same kind of idea, except according to the article, and I'm trying to look for it as I talk, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it just skimming, and I'm not. But the Haslams don't like that area because there's not enough acreage for them to do the Ballpark Village. They like Brook Park because there's so much space over there. Now, there isn't enough space, as much space as Brook Park at Burke for them to do the Ballpark Village, but there is a lot of space to do that. And that's kind of my thought process too. I get what you're saying. I think we should have some sort of boardwalk. We should utilize the lake way more than we do as a city right now. But that's just my 2 cents. What do you think about that, Matt?
And I mean, what you were hitting on there, I absolutely love because, demolishing an airport and then developing it enough to, turn into some sort of area for Clevelanders to walk to and enjoy is expensive. It's going to be very expensive, especially when you talk about putting it right on a lakefront. There's a whole bunch of costs involved with that, more than I even really know about, I'm sure. And it would be nice to have the Haslams, foot half the bill or however that works out with the city so that, all of our tax money isn't paying for it. I just, like I was saying, my concern is if you center it around football and have, the Haslams owning it and running it, it could turn into more about a money-making operation than a enjoy the beauty of the city type thing.
Yeah, and I'm looking and I'm reading right now. The Burke site is 450 acres. Brook Park is still massive. That's 176 acres. So if they have this ability and this plan just for 176 acres in Brook Park, you put that half into what would become Haslam World, and you still have another Brook Park's worth of space to put whatever you want in terms of the city of Cleveland. And I'm not trying to just completely shut down your point, because I feel like that's a valid concern people have when they start thinking about this topic, right? We want to do as much as we can outside of just sports with Cleveland and the lakefront and all of that. But when you think of all the land that opens up, it's not First Energy anymore. The Cleveland Browns Stadium is now, that can be a lakefront area. You talk about, over half of Burke Lakefront, now that can be a lakefront area. It's just crazy to me, the amount of possibilities that are here. And I've always loved this idea, so the fact that it's being talked about makes me excited. There's two things I want to touch on, though. One being that the city cannot legally sell the land because it's reclaimed to the Haslams, but they could charge whatever they want for the Haslams to rent on it. So the Haslams would have to transact $1 for up to 100 years, basically, $1 for the land for it to be legal. So I don't think that's the end of the world. The other thing with this, though, and, I was talking to Eric, shout out Eric from the East Bank Sports Show at the office. We're doing an episode tomorrow, by the way, everybody who listens to both shows, Tuesday, 8 p.m., so we can all enjoy our long 4th of July weekend, is that when the FAA, or the FAA, right? That's Federal Airline Regulation, whatever, regardless, you know what I'm saying. When they give a status to an airport, they don't like to take it away. So that's the first hurdle we're going to have to jump through, is if we're saying screw Burke, we're going to have some discussions with a bigger federal agency, which is scary for this whole situation, right? That being said, I still just don't think this is going to happen. I think the Haslams are dead set on Brook Park because they get to own everything that goes with it and still get the tax money that goes with it as well. I think this is kind of the last ditch effort from the city before they make that decision to move to Brook Park. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, keep them in Cleveland over anything. And I hadn't thought about it the way you put it there in terms of the sizing. If there's that much room, yeah, absolutely. There's no reason not to. But I mean, kind of like you were just saying is what I was getting ready to say. It does seem like the Haslams are out of downtown Cleveland. It's just a matter of time. I would love to see the city pull out all the stops to keep them, but it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen anymore.
Yeah, and I'm reading through this article a little bit more just to see if there's anything I touch on. And, I agree with you 100%. Keep the Browns in Cleveland, right? There's one thing I kind of think about here, first of all, too. I'm reading about the FAA. The FAA probably wouldn't let Burke close down until another airport was expanded, like the Cuyahoga County one, which I believe is in it's 20 minutes away. So it's not the end of the world, even though the executives that would like to land just downtown and not have to deal with it would probably not be happy. Besides the point. The other thing involved here, in my opinion, is, you got to think the biggest thing with Burke was they didn't want to build the stadium on a landfill. And that's what it is it's a bunch of reclaimed landfill we built on top of. So I'm really curious if this is truly feasible, or we're just trying to throw every option at the Haslams to keep them to stay. One last thing I want to touch on, because we've been going back and forth about this in a minute, and Matt, I'll let you wrap up and kind of give another take before we move on to the Guardians, is the question of, and it's slipping my mind right now. Give me 1 second. Let me think. How long it's going to take to build this, right? how long it's going to take for them to build this stadium, because in the report is it's going to take a long time. So it could be, $1 billion for the new stadium plus renovations for the time being for Cleveland Browns Stadium, because it's going to be another 10 to 12 years as opposed to like the end of the decade, which it would be for Brook Park. I just think this is kind of Cleveland trying to do their last ditch effort before they move to Brook Park. Matt, do you have anything else you want to add?
I mean, my last big question is Burke Lakefront is where they run the Cleveland Air Show out of every year. Personally, I am a huge Cleveland Air Show enjoyer. I would not like to see that end. And I hadn't thought about that till right now, but that would upset me if we bulldozed the airport and said bye-bye to the Cleveland Air Show.
I wonder, and we're not going to go into it, but I wonder where they would have it, because it's such a big air show, right? Like, I feel like they wouldn't just totally get rid of it. Like, would they move it? They couldn't move it to Hopkins because it's a regular airport too. Are they going to move it to, I believe it's Richmond Heights is where the other one is. I don't know. That's an interesting one too. I wonder what the cost value reaction is there to both of them. Or could they just have the air show still downtown and have it in a new event space and all the planes launch off of, not from Burke? Because do they even launch off from Burke as it is?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, do they? Okay. Regardless, we've talked a lot about this stadium. We've gone for a while on the stadium, and I'm totally fine with that. But the Browns aren't in season right now, Matt. There's a team in season, and regardless of losing their last series, I want to talk about what's next for them. We have a lot of news that broke, in terms of the pitching rotation, what rotation you'd like to see. Triston McKenzie gets sent down. Matt, what was your reaction with Triston McKenzie getting sent down? Let's start with that.
My initial reaction was, sadness and wow, I don't believe we actually did it. And then about an hour or two later, I was thinking about it again, and I was like, yeah, as much as I love him, it makes sense. I think it makes more sense to just end his year and get him that surgery that everybody knows he needs, but we're refusing to admit. I mean, clearly he's not himself, and
Not at all.
there's no point in trying to force him back into being yourself. I mean, baseball is very much a mental game as much as it is physical. And I think at this point, clearly he's not going to be able to just, throw his way out of it. Give him the surgery, give him downtime, give him his recovery, make his mind think he's recovered again, and see what happens. I mean, it can't get any worse. Like, he was not looking great as much, and I'm not trying to sit here and dog on him. He's been a phenomenal pitcher for Cleveland for years now. Just something ain't right this year, and it needs to be fixed.
Yeah, so I'm with you up into the point that, everybody says go and let him have the surgery, right? I don't think that's the plan with him, even if, you, I, whoever thinks that should be the plan with him. I think they're sending him down to Columbus to figure this thing out. I think they really want him to try to figure this thing out with what's given to him, with, what's going on with our team right now. Honestly, I think that's what they want to see out of him. For better or for worse, right? I think that's what their goal is, and I really hope Sticks figures it out, because we could use him, especially, come playoff time or come towards the end of the season when we're trying to make our claim for a seed or whatever. I'm feeling very comfortable about saying that we're going to make the playoffs right now, so I'm going to talk in that absolute. But yeah, I was shocked too. I couldn't believe they actually did it. I thought they were going to, keep him around a little bit longer than they ended up doing. I just think it's crazy. If you would have told me Lively and Cookie were going to make it longer on this roster this year than Triston McKenzie, I would have taken whatever bet you gave me and been so upset when I lost that money. And unfortunately, too, this coming Saturday, so that would be July 6th, is Triston McKenzie bobblehead night. So terrible timing in terms of promotional schedule. I think pretty good timing, all things considered. I don't know what you think, Matt, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right in saying we're sending him down to give him an opportunity to figure it out. I just think it's a waste of time. I do. We've given him plenty of time to figure it out where he's been comfortable the last couple years of his career. We need to shut him down. I'll stand firm on that. Shut him down for the year and let him come back next year.
It's fair enough. Something else I wanted to ask before we get into kind of our listy aspect of the Guardians, since we're talking guards. What's next for the guards? I mean, they fell to the Royals. How are you feeling? What is your outlook on the team? All of that as of right now.
I still am really not worried. We lose a series to the Royals, a team that has looked very solid all year. They've been in a little bit of a slump lately. Slumps don't last forever in the MLB. They were bound to come back out and start winning games again. It sucks it was against us. Still didn't get swept. Haven't been swept all year. Knock on wood, we'll carry that into the All-Star break. I'm still real comfortable with the team. We've shown plenty of fight. I'm very comfortable with how Votes ran the team through pretty much half a season now. I couldn't be more comfortable, regardless of the fact we just dropped 3 of 4 to Kansas City.
Yeah, I was a little upset. I kind of wish that series went better than it did. I think that's part of the telltale of why McKenzie got sent down too. Just watching that performance, right? I'm still ecstatic, though, about the team. I think we're doing great things. I've been enjoying a lot of the prospects that have gotten called up this year and the contributions that they've had. I'm not upset. I'm not worried. I don't think it's at any point in time yet to press the panic button unless they get swept the rest of the week, because they have, I know it's the White Sox to start and then San Francisco after that, maybe? Okay, perfect. I really hope we use this White Sox series to kind of get back in rhythm and everything. I know we lost that series to them earlier in the season, but we are the better team, on paper, on record, on XYZ, ABCDEFG. So I hope they use that, and they use it as a get back too, because we lost the first series against them, and we're better than that. So let's get our get back and sweep them, right? That's kind of where I'm at with everything. Matt, I know we wanted to talk, pitching rotation, kind of starting lineup with some of these prospects. I took the offensive side. You took the pitching side. I want you to talk to me about some of the pitching stuff that we're looking at before we wrap this episode up.
So I'm going to start it, point blank. I'm just going to call it how it is. I've been, one to sit here and say we need to go get a pitcher at the deadline or before the deadline. I'll still die on that hill, but Cleveland baseball fans need to brace themselves, because I truly do think we're going to go get a starter, but it is going to be expensive. I mean, in my mind, we have our 4 starters already. Gavin Williams coming back, Logan Allen, Lively, Beebe. Really comfortable with those 4. I think everybody agrees we need a 5th. The problems we're running into with that, though, there's not many starters available this year in general. And then going a little deeper than that, they expanded the playoffs this year. That means you have more teams that are on the fringe fighting for postseason spots, more teams that think they can make a run and get back into the postseason by the end of the year. You have less teams selling. So not as many teams are willing to blow it all up, get rid of a starter or 2 for, some young talent. And then that doubles down on itself, because the teams that are willing to sell, say the White Sox, they know that. They know that they have a monopoly on the market. So if they have a starter that they're willing to part ways with, they know that they can treat a 4 ERA starter as if he's an all-star right now, and people are still probably going to try to buy for it. So basically what I'm getting at is, deep down, I think what the play that we've been making is we've been calling up all these young players that show a lot of potential, giving them a week, 2 weeks, and they've all shown really well. They've played really well, hit the ball well, played the outfield or infield well. I think what we're doing there is, pulling them all the way up, letting them play good. Now we're going to go to all these teams that might have a starter we can trade for We're going to be like, hey, look at this positional player we have that looks really solid. I think that's what we're getting ready to do. We might end up cleaning house on some of these kids that we've called up this year and you were just talking about that have looked really well, looked really good. I think we might send 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, I mean, I see the same thing happening for sure. We've called up some good prospects and we have some good prospects playing right now, and making consistent starts and all of that. And you got to think there's still so many younger players we have down there that are highly ranked, in the MLB in general, not just, the Guardians roster. Obviously, we have great numbers in our roster and stuff. I kind of wanted to talk about positional players and who I kind of, if I had to lock myself in to a starting, 1 through 9 in terms of batting order, right? And filling out the field. And this is kind of what I came up with. And since I'm kind of going based off of what I want, not what a player would want, I have Stephen Kwan playing center field to lead off instead of left field because he's our best fielder. Me and Matt make that joke all the time, even though it seems like he's happy in left field, so we should leave him in left field, right? I then have Freeman playing left field at the number 2. I love Hemi, but I don't think he should be in between Kwan and who's my 3, Jose Ramirez, obviously. He's typically our 3. Followed by Josh Naylor at cleanup. Josh Naylor, this is very typical of the lineup we've seen the last couple years. I think if it ain't broke, don't fix it, especially this season. Then we have Jimenez batting right in the middle. That's where I think he's perfect at, right in between this. Might start, the second inning. You know what I mean? I just like him right there in the middle. Obviously playing second, Jose playing third, Josh playing first. Those are the locks. I have David Fry at DH. He's, fantastic at that role and being able to rotate in at, basically any position here if we need him to. Schneemann, who has been batting crazy. Big fan of him. He was one of my guys when I worked at Akron playing shortstop. I know that's a little weird of a fit, but he did play it one time. So I let it count. John Kenzie Noel, who is a big fella but does play the field. He did play the field in the last game where he had that home run against the Royals. I have him at right field. And then, of course, my guy, Bo Naylor, playing catcher. Matt, I know there's some funkiness to this. If I'm being the manager, this is what I'm putting out there and seeing if this lineup, sparks something. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking in terms of the positional players for the Cleveland Guardians?
So, in general, with the exception of the weird things you pointed out, like Kwan in center field, obviously, there are certain issues with that I don't even have to get into. The big things I'll say to that is literally give me anybody but Bo Naylor at catcher at this point. Give me a 6th grader.
That's crazy.
I'll take him.
That's
like
no, you're just now you're just doing it to get on my nerves because he's played. He's played really good lately, and now you're just hating to stir the pot. But continue.
One thing that really does worry me is Noel. I love the dude. I love the energy he brings. I'm really worried he's a flash in the pan. He's getting hot right as he gets called up. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that, there's a clip of this going around in a week and a half when he's still on fire and I'm being made fun of. That's fine. But I'm really worried that he's not going to work out long term. And then this is actually, a recent development of mine. But I'm almost ready to die on the hill that Rocchio is our shortstop moving forward.
Interesting. And I don't completely hate that. I think a lot of people have come around to Rocchio being a good shortstop. He's another guy in Akron that I really, he was our shortstop while I was there working as an intern. So I do like Rocchio too, but I just, obviously I like batting because I put everybody here except Bo with the best batting averages on the team and said, let's go swing for the fences, boys. So
it's an interesting approach.
For sure. No, for sure. I know it's not perfect. I just thought you would think it was interesting. John Kenzie Noel, I actually am not as worried about him being a flash in the pan because he's such a power batter. And that's something that this lineup has desperately needed, is another power batter. And that's what he brings. So I'm really excited to see him, continue to flourish. I know he's not going to play right field every day and he's going to be a rotational guy, but I'm really excited to see what he flourishes into unless we trade him for a starting pitcher, which is, 100% possible with what you were saying. Matt, do you have anything else you want to cover with the Guardians? Anything else on my Frankenstein lineup of let's go for the World Series and win the whole effing thing and all of that?
I mean, I'm pretty sure I'd rather take like a middle relief pitcher behind
All
the
right,
plate
I just muted Matt anyway.
Okay,
so.
all right. Well, it was great.
Oh, okay, now he froze. Regardless, okay, let's go into final thoughts and takes. Matt, final thoughts and takes. What is your final thought and take that isn't taking shit on Bo Naylor before we wrap up this show?
My final thought would be, ooh, it's a tough one because you kind of ruined mine because it was Bo Naylor related.
You could do your Bo Naylor take. I don't care.
Well, I already kind of ruined it because it was just going to be, give me like a travel ball player for Bo. But what I will say is seriously, I need to double down on this. Cleveland fans, brace yourself. We're going to clear the farm out if we go after a starter. Or if we don't clear the farm out, we're going to trade the best closer in baseball. Those are the two ways it goes. I hate them both, but one of them's bound to happen.
Yeah, and I don't think they're trading Clase because we're doing win now. We're not. You know what I mean? You want Clase for a playoff run. So that's me. My final thought and take. Let me see here. I'm going to double down on Jhonkensy Noel being the power bat we need to continue the momentum we have playing, hitting the baseball like we have been. I'm a really big fan of this kid. I think he's going to be a fantastic addition. He's one of the guys in the back of my mind that I've been kind of like, let's call him up, but I know he's relatively young, all things considered, so I didn't want to die on the hill yet. But I'm happy he got called up. I'm happy, his first at bat, he hits a home run, and now he's already got two, and he's a good power bat, man, and that's what we need. He's going to strike out looking sometimes, or not strike out looking. He's going to strike out swinging sometimes, and he's gonna go for it. But that's what this lineup needs, especially if you put him in that bottom of rotation, kind of like I had him. I believe I had him at like 8, right, Matt?
Yeah, you had him at 7 or 8, I believe.
So I'm excited to see him play more baseball. I'm really, really, really excited that Gavin Williams is back. I am going to the game. He is officially starting on Friday. Well, he's penciled in to start on Wednesday, but officially starting on Wednesday. So I'm really excited to see him as I start my 4th of July weekend. Matt, anything else you got to say to the people before we get out of here? Perfect. Thank you guys again for tuning in to another edition of the East Bank Sports Show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on the East Bank Sports Show channel or the Fanatical Elves channel. We put our episodes on both of those. Make sure you download this podcast if you are listening to just the audio version. Helps us grow a ton, helps us put pennies in our pocket, as John, the runner of the Fanatical Elves, likes to say. It really helps us grow and continue the brand that we've been trying to grow here for almost a year, which is crazy to me still, Matt. And until next time, Cleveland, and don't forget, real quick, before I say until next time, Cleveland, At the Office is tomorrow, Tuesday at 8 p.m., as opposed to your normal Wednesday showing because of the 4th of July weekend, so we can all go out there and enjoy the 4th of July. What's up, Matt? You got something to say?
One thing I want to say, quick little throw it out there. Shout out the Milwaukee Brewers. I don't know how many people really followed it. It didn't seem like a big thing. But, as you're going to vote for Cleveland's All-Stars, vote for Milwaukee's too. We've done like a little joint program we're running, get both small market teams, star players to the game. I love it. So, make sure you're supporting the teams that are throwing support our way too.
100%. I was going to shout that out at the end as well. Make sure you vote. Like I said at the beginning, vote so we get our guys starting in the All-Star game. I want Quan as a starter. Favorite Guardian aside from Bo Naylor, probably favorite Guardian right now because he is fantastic at baseball.
Actually,
but until next time, you killed me. But until next time, Cleveland, have a great week.